Good evening, you're watching Estuary News, I'm Hugh Riches. In tonight's programme, plans to preserve the legacy of Hull 2017, and we'll discover the hosts of next year's Tour de Yorkshire. I'll be talking to Hull author Jes Parkin about her trilogy about the fishing industry, and before that, Chris Hopkinson is here to tell me about his attempt to break 11 world cycling records. A plan to harness the momentum of Hull's year as City of Culture has been revealed today. The City Council has confirmed a £250 million plan to continue investing in cultural and visitor infrastructure. The plans include a 3,500-seater arena due for completion next summer, the redevelopment of Albion Square and the new cruise terminal at Victoria Dock. The Hull 2017 team will remain as a national arts organisation to be known as Culture Company. It'll continue to build on the success of this year and act as a consultant for other cities. Martin Green is the Director and CEO of Hull 2017.
To me, the city seems more confident. It seems to have fallen in love with itself all over again. Remember, this was always a cultural city, but I think we've just been able to shine a light on that and bring it out. I think we've been able to bring new experiences to it. And the great thing is that people have responded to that and gone, yeah, all right, I'm up for that. And just see the response to the Turner Prize and how packed that is, you know. So, you know, long may it continue, really. We've found a confidence culturally. We've found a curiosity. We've experienced new things. So keep doing what you do.
The television writer Phil Redmond was part of the panel that chose Hull as City of Culture, and he was also part of the team that won Liverpool's bid to become European Capital of Culture in 2008. He says the city's steps to protect the 2017 legacy put it ahead of the game.
You need to look along the cultural corridor back to the centre of the creative universe in Liverpool and see that, you know, you always do that. You have a massive spike, then it drops down again, but then it gradually builds back up if you carry on, you know, sort of presenting the city. And, you know, I said here this morning, I mean, Liverpool's doubled its visitor economy based on what happened in 2008, you know, and that's what you've got to keep thinking about. This is not just handing out money to flaky creatives. It's a strong, sound, you know, economic investment in the city's future.
Beverley has once again been chosen to host a stage of the Tour de Yorkshire, the cycle race. The town hosted a stage start in 2016 and will once more feature prominently in the region's premier cycling event. Next year's men's race will be over 4 days, 1 day longer than usual, and the women's race has been extended to 2 days. Scarborough, Richmond, Leeds, Barnsley, Halifax, Ilkley and Doncaster will also host starts or finishes. Police are appealing for witnesses to an alleged assault which followed a traffic accident in Grimsby. A silver Fiat collided with a red Honda CR-V while reversing into a parking space on Wellhome Road. Both drivers then got out of their vehicles and had a verbal exchange before the Fiat driver, allegedly, caused minor injuries to the Honda driver's face. The suspect has been described as white, in his 40s, around 5 feet 10, about 5 feet 10, scruffy, and wearing a black cap. 3 years ago, we brought you the launch of the Men in Sheds project in Hull, where men suffering from social isolation can get together and put their creativity to some use. The project might expand thanks to a sizable donation raised at a hat-trick of charity events organised by employees of 16 of the biggest businesses in the area. They're now hoping to expand into a second shed, closer to the city centre than their current site on Beverley Road. They'll receive 25% of the £74,000 raised. Staff from the companies, including Reckitt, Benckiser, Heron Foods and KCOM, took part in 3 gruelling challenges as part of the First More Together initiative. Tanya Childs is the corporate brand director for Smith & Nephew, who set up the project.
It's gone hugely above our expectations, yeah, I'm very pleased to say. So we announced our total just now at the Men in Shed site, who'll be receiving approximately a quarter of the total raised, and we've raised slightly over £74,000 for local charities. 2017, while the spotlight was on our city, was the first year we decided to get as many other companies involved as possible, with the aim of raising as much for local Hull charities as possible. So we came up with the idea of running 3 challenging physical events that could get employees, their families involved, and extending that to another 16 businesses, large and small, across the city.
It means a lot because it is restricted to opening a second shed in Hull, and we're currently looking for premises somewhere in the city, nearer the city centre the better, but to take more people in and help them to share in the community. The idea is that men get together, support each other, comradeship, friendship, and share skills and hobbies.
Now, news a little earlier about the Tour de Yorkshire, a different kind of cycling now. I'm joined by Chris Hopkinson, who is going to be breaking some cycling records over this next few days. Chris, welcome. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
And did you come here by bicycle?
No, I'm saving myself for tomorrow night.
Now, this is quite a feat of endurance and speed that you're looking at. Tomorrow night, what is it you're doing?
Well, at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, I start going round and round Queeble Park outdoor track, the velodrome.
This is just outside Scunthorpe.
Which is, it's just outside Scunthorpe. It's a 485 metre track, and I'm attempting 11 UMCA world records on it. And eventually I'm hoping to cycle 1,660 laps around this track.
Now, your sport is very, very long distance cycling.
Yes.
So some of the records that you're going for, I mean, some of them it's because you're going for the metric records and the imperial miles.
Correct, yes.
Measurement records. But what sort of distances are you hoping to achieve in record time?
There's 100 kilometres, 200 kilometres, 300 kilometres, 500 kilometres, 100 mile, 200 mile, 300 mile and 500 mile, 6 hours, 12 hours and 24 hours.
Okay, so you are going to be going 500 miles round and round this stadium.
Yes.
In Scunthorpe. Let's just take the 500 mile record.
Yep.
What sort of time are you hoping?
Well, at the moment, that's the only one of the 11 that there isn't a record set at the moment. My aim is to try and get the 500 miles within the 24 hours.
That is going at quite... My arithmetic's not good enough for that. It should be there. What's that? It's about...
21 miles an hour.
20 miles an hour, yeah.
21 miles an hour will be 504 miles.
So that is for a whole 24 hours, or one hopes a little bit less than 24 hours.
Yep.
You're mad as a hatter.
It has been said.
You're going to be absolutely knackered. That's a remarkable endurance test for any human body.
If I'm not tired by the end of it, I've not done it properly.
No, I think you're going to be tired by the end of it. People are welcome to come along and support you.
Oh yes, please. Call me crazy, give me a cheer, or both.
Well, I do both.
Yes.
You are crazy, and I cheer you on.
And that's great.
So where should they should be there? What, about 7 o'clock onwards?
Yes, it starts at 7 p.m. Friday and will finish at 7 p.m. Saturday, or as close to 7 p.m. as I can possibly make it. Because I shall continue until I've done the 500 miles. You're
looking for a little bit of sponsorship as well?
It'd be nice if someone could help be a title sponsor for the event, some local business that's interested in getting some publicity from it. Because obviously I have to pay for the hire of the stadium and floodlighting. The floodlighting will be on all night, etc.
Yeah. Well, a 24-hour effort is bound to be.
Well, yes.
This is not the first time you've gone on an unfeasibly long bicycle trip. You do crazy things. I'm sorry, I'll stop using that word about you, Chris. It's a little bit rude of me, isn't it? You do wonderfully admirable things, like cycling extremely fast across the whole of North America.
Yes. In 2005, I was the first Brit to ever officially finish the race across America. There's a film about it called Bicycle Dreams. Since then, I've done it 3 more times, and obviously it's non-stop. The clock starts on the west coast, finishes on the east, and you have a time limit of 12 days to finish it in.
How long did it take you?
The fastest I've done it is 10 days, 18 hours and 55 minutes.
And this really is, the clock's never off. If you want to sleep, you just sort of snatch a few hours sleep in the middle of the desert somewhere, or the Rocky Mountains or something like that.
Yep, that's correct.
And so there's no going further. It's a bit like Forrest Gump, isn't it, running back and forth?
That's correct. This year I cut it a bit finer. The course was the longest so far. I measured it at 3,144 miles, and I finished with about 22 minutes to spare.
If those of us, I recommend the film. Those of us watching it, you're the one with the multicoloured mohawk.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. This is all the more remarkable because you injured yourself quite badly.
Yes, in 2001, before all my UMCA world titles and the records, I smashed the neck of my femur and had it repaired around three 6-inch screws, and I was told there was no chance of me ever walking again. So,
and now you're beating world records cycling.
Yes.
You have a bit of an interesting backstory. You're an old soldier, you're a decorated soldier, and yet your interest in being fit and healthy is post-army.
Yes.
How fit were you in the army?
Not really very fit at all. I never failed a fitness test, but I always just scraped them.
And in civilian life, what persuaded you to get fit?
When I left the army, I'm a musician, and I was working in the West End, and I was also teaching in Nottinghamshire, and I had one too many speeding tickets, and
that's when you bought a bike.
I went and bought a bike. Yes.
Chris, good luck with this magnificent effort that you're doing tomorrow night. I hope you win all those records. You certainly deserve to. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Join me after the break. Dan brings us a roundup of all the sports news, and I'll be talking to author Jes Parkin. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Dan brings us all the sports news, and I'll be talking to Jes Parkin about her latest novel. Louth Cattle Market has been saved and recommended for refurbishment. East Lindsey District Council recently conducted a public consultation to determine the future of the site. The council's executive board held a meeting last night to discuss the future of the market and concluded that the site be recommended for refurbishment. The board will meet with the council on October the 11th and recommend the continued ownership of the market and a refurbishment scheme. Bradley football pitches in Grimsby are to be transformed into a £1 million sporting centre. 2 state-of-the-art artificial pitches will be built at the Bradley Development Centre. The project was approved by North East Lincolnshire Council at a meeting yesterday. As part of the expansion work, which is being handled by Links Inspire, the project will include additional car parking, enhanced security and pitch drainage. The fictional High Enterprise Company has taken over East Riding Leisure Holton Price. The leisure centre marked the beginning of Lit Up 2017 with a new exhibition called High Enterprise, themed around the multi-purpose use of the centre. Patrick Coyle, the artist behind the exhibition, says he hopes people will take full advantage of High Enterprise's interactive nature.
East Riding Leisure Holton Price has been transformed into an imaginative fictional world to mark the launch of Lit Up 2017. High Enterprise makes use of the multi-purpose building through writing, performance and sculpture installation, all of which help to create the fictional world of Holt Emprise.
So I was invited to contribute something to the festival, and this is the first place we visited and just had such a good first impression of the place. I mean, I used to come here for swimming lessons when I was a kid, and the building's changed so much. It's now a library and a cafe and has all sorts of public services, and I wanted to celebrate that about this building, like those crossovers between these very different environments. I just have to say the staff here have been the best, just the best possible to work with. Their attitude was just always, yes, and we can also do this if you're interested. To me, it's just really important to celebrate this vast area that surrounds Hull. That's often, I don't know if it's marginalised, but it's often perhaps not been the focus during this amazing Hull festival. So yeah, I think Lit Up especially is doing a really good job of celebrating that.
Now, with me now, Jes Parkin, Hull author, writer about novels about deep-sea fishing, Jes. Welcome.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you for coming in. Let me just pick up this trilogy of novels, the Tommy Ellis trilogy, I suppose.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
And there's Tommy Ellis Goes to Sea, Tommy Ellis Heads Northwest, and Tommy Ellis Fisherman.
Yes.
Give me a general, without spoiling the endings of anything, give me a general outline of what these are about, what's happening.
Well, first of all, the reason why I decided to write these novels, fishing was a huge part of the huge industry in Hull for many, many years, as it was for Grimsby. It was a very dangerous job, very dangerous lifestyle. And when you think in Hull alone we lost nearly 6,000 fishermen, and I'm sure the numbers in Grimsby were so high. And since the end of the fishing industry, many people are forgetting, and a lot of young people, especially children, don't know anything about it. So I thought, how could I bring this to future generations? So I created the character Tommy Ellis, and in book one, takes place in 1959. Tommy is 12 years old. His dad is a skipper, and he takes him for what they used to call a pleasure trip during the school summer holidays. There was not much pleasure in it, by the way.
Pleasure trip up to the Arctic Circle. How
yes,
lovely.
they went to Bear Island on the first trip, and all sorts of things happened. He's a little bit apprehensive at first, not knowing what to expect. The second book takes place a year later, and he's really keen to get on board. He can't wait. And this time it's a Greenland trip. And going up in the Davis Straits, even in August, it's not very pleasant, and it isn't a very nice trip for them at all, for whatever reason. You will read it in the book. The third book is written in two parts. Part one is 1963. Tommy has just left school, he's 16, and he signs on as Decky learner. And it's an Iceland trip. In part two, we're jumping ahead 10 years. It's January 1973. Tommy is 26, and he is a skipper.
Very young to be a skipper, I'd have thought.
Well, there were some skippers who were young. There is a retired skipper from Hull who comes into the primary schools with me, Ray Hawker. He was one of the youngest skippers in Hull.
Now, you mentioned the date of when he becomes a skipper there in that second part of the third book. And
yes.
That's Cod Wars with Iceland.
Yes. And I do...
Gunboats cutting nets and things
yes,
like that.
Yes, there is a lot of information about the Cod Wars, about what it was actually like. I mean, the characters in my books are fictional, but I do a lot of research. I speak to a lot of retired fishermen, and when children or adults are reading the book, they can learn exactly what it was like on board a fishing trawler.
Well, you mentioned that in his second trip, he can't wait to get back aboard. He can't wait to go back to sea.
It's true.
And it's true. I've spoken to so many old fishermen in Hull and Grimsby who will tell you about the danger, the fear, the cold, the exhaustion, the ice, the wind, and then they'll say they'd do it again tomorrow if they could. They absolutely loved it.
It's in their blood.
It
It really is in their blood.
Talking of being in the blood, is that your father, I think?
Yes, that's my father.
So he was an old fisherman?
Yes, he was a radio operator on the trawlers. That photograph was taken, I would say, mid-1950s.
And he would have been, he looks, what, about 30 or something like that then?
Maybe just under 30.
He was quite a slim fellow, wasn't he? In those days.
So, but I do visit a lot of schools in and around Hull, and I talk about the fishing industry. I'm a member of the Hull Bullnose Heritage Group.
Now, what's that doing? What's that?
The Hull Bullnose Heritage Group are for keeping the heritage alive, if you like, so people don't forget. They've been responsible for the murals that are along Hessel Road and the Bethel boards. In fact, tomorrow morning we've got 200 school children from the Newington Academy coming to sign their names on the latest mural.
What is the bullnose?
The bullnose, as you come out of St Andrew's Dock, the fish dock, there is sort of, I'll say, a pointed quay.
When you say you come out of the dock, you mean as you come out to sea?
Yes, and as you come back, you face it. Is a pointed quayside with a building on the top, and that was the last piece of land the fishermen saw as they were going to sea.
Where can people get their hands on these wonderful books?
Well, Amazon. Definitely.
Okay.
But in Hull, you can get it from the Hessel Bookshop, from Boys on Hessel Road, Henry Head Jewellers.
Jes.
But most people get it from Amazon.
I hope you get splendid sales. Thanks so much
Thank
for
you
coming
very much.
in.
Thank you.
Here's Dan with all the sports news.
Hull City defender Stephen Kingsley will miss Saturday's game against Birmingham City. The left-back went off midway through the first half of Tuesday's defeat to Preston with an adductor muscle injury. Max Clark is expected to deputise as he did in the last game, and Kingsley will continue to be assessed. Meanwhile, head coach Leonid Slutsky admits that his confidence has been knocked by recent results. The Tigers are now 5 games without a win in the Championship.
Everybody thinking only about positive moments, but when you can't win, especially when you concede the goal in the last minutes, of course you are thinking about problem, about it's okay, one knockdown possible, yes, it's but some knockdown in a row, it's maybe knockout a little bit, but we must keep facing this situation and continue working very hard. Only one way. It's a very simple. It's a banal, but I don't know another.
Scunthorpe United could have a new signing next week. New Zealand international Clayton Lewis is reportedly close to signing for the Iron. He's currently a free agent, having last played for New Zealand top-tier side Auckland City, and we'll bring you more on his arrival at Glanford Park when we get it. Grimsby Town defender Zach Mills has returned to training today and could be in line for a return in the derby against Lincoln. He'll be assessed over the next 24 hours to decide if he'll be in the squad for the game at Blundell Park. And a reminder that game kicks off at 1 o'clock on Saturday lunchtime. Rugby now, and this time tomorrow, Hull FC will be at Headingley preparing for their Super League semi-final against Leeds. It's the biggest game of the season for the Black and Whites, according to head coach Lee Radford. Jordan Thompson is the only change to his 19-man squad for the game. He's in place of Steve Michaels. Kick-off is at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And that's all for the sport.
Thanks, Dan. That's all for tonight. If you have a news story for us, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages, email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472315553. I haven't pointed at the details down here for a while. You can put pen to paper and write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN345BQ. From all of us until tomorrow, good evening.